And last night, it certainly was different. Welcome to NBA Today. I'm Malika Andrews. In the play-by-play era, teams were 1 and 271 when trailing by at least 29 points in a playoff game. That was entering last night. But the one win, just cast your mind back. It was a young Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. His Los Angeles Clippers, they came back from down 31 against KD, Steph Curry, Klay, Draymond, and the Warriors in the first round to tie up the series 1-1. Remember Lou Will? He finished that game with a game-high 36 in that one. But you know what they say about history? It repeats itself. SGA and the Thunder, they were down by as many as 29 points in Game 3 against the Grizzlies. But this was the pivotal play, Bobby Marks. This is when everything changed. Watch Ja Morant here. Lou Dort just catches him in the air. He goes down hard, comes down on his hip. And then there were some words exchanged here. Lou Dort said after the game that he didn't mean to. He didn't intend to hurt Ja Morant. Ja would miss both free throws, exit the game, and didn't return.
Right. He slipped. I mean, listen, Lou Dort slipped on that, but that changed the game as far as that Ja Morant
Might
injury.
change the series.
You know what else changed the game? Chet Holmgren. After going 0 for 4 in the first half, he started to get buckets here, heated up really in the third quarter, Mark Spears. And see that little tracker at the bottom of your screen? Since Ja Morant went out, watch the Thunder start to roar.
And we were at the Clippers game. A little curious about this score. I went away from it thinking it was done.
I was watching on your phone, Malika.
Well, that's the thing, is that in the NBA, no lead is safe here. So fourth quarter, the lead has been cut to 8. Holmgren, he drives inside for the dunk. So now the lead is trimmed to just 6. And then less than a minute later here, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander hits a nice little step-back 3 there. Here comes the Thunder within 3. Lightning doesn't strike twice, or it does, but so does the Thunder. Here comes Jalen Williams, hits the pull-up jumper there. OKC making this a real game. 2-point game here, and this is what SGA does. Finds Lou Dort, gets inside for the tough finish. The game is tied at 105, and all of a sudden, Grizzlies fans starting to get a little tight here. But Scottie Pippen Jr., he had an excellent game here, Bobby.
He came off the bench, certainly with the Ja injury, to give them a lift. They needed a lift.
And he was certainly the one to provide it here. Holmgren, though, the wing 3, gets that one to go. The game tied back up at 108. Then after free throws, OKC up 3 with 34 seconds left. Memphis with the ball, but keep an eye on Alex Caruso here. The activity, Bobby.
The difference maker. 4 steals in the second half here.
And then after contesting, he leaks out, and then he has the layup to ice the game here. The Thunder storm back to complete the 29-point comeback. Here's Chet Holmgren after a monster second half.
It's a team mentality. It's no one person. You know, everybody's voice holds the same amount of weight in that locker room, and everybody was saying something. We were all communicating, and then we came out and we cleaned it up.
Just understanding leads are not, you're never as far or, damn, I want to say it.
It's never as bad or as good as
No, that's not what I want to say though. Like you're never too far, and you're never too far ahead or too far behind. Yeah, that's right. That's how we went into it and tried to approach it.
It's just a good philosophy for life.
Yeah.
You're running your own race. You're not competing against anybody. No one is too far ahead or behind, or whatever philosophy J-Dub was trying to say here. But we do know this.
Yeah.
The Thunder completed the largest halftime comeback in NBA postseason history. Wow. They trailed by 26 points at the half in this one. They passed the Cavaliers' 25-point comeback against the Pacers 8 years ago, Bobby. What impressed you the most in this comeback?
You know, it's funny. I was ready to use the E word today on the show. Oh. Embarrassing.
Whoa.
Because they basically got run off the court in the first half here. And #1 seeds that doesn't happen to them. And I'm going to go back to like the 90s, Michael Jordan, those Chicago Bulls teams, 72-win teams. That doesn't happen to them. But they are able to kind of figure it out. Of course, the Ja Morant injury, Alex Caruso in that second half, the ability to basically go small ball with this group here. The hardest part is that they did it on the road.
Yeah.
You see these comebacks, certainly we showed that clipper, they did it on the road. This was not Memphis coming back from 20 points down.
So, to me, it's Chet Holmgren. 23 of his 24 points in the second half. And it started at the end of the first half. Ja Morant has this dunk, and Ja kind of gets into it with Chet a little bit. He bumps into him, and Chet, you can see his mouth. He says, don't start that. Okay, don't start
swagger
that.
there.
Yeah. How often do you have a guy who can lead your team in the postseason in three-point shooting and rebounds?
Right.
That is a dynamic threat, and every time he would pull up for 3, they'd run at him, and then he could drive to the basket. He's just such a weapon for them.
Well, I talked to Lou Dort at the end of the season. I'm like, you guys are young, man. Y'all ain't got over the hump. Like, why should we believe in you guys? He's like, we're confident, but we're not overconfident in what we've done.
Yeah.
And you see their camaraderie, but that confidence they have to come back and still think that they could beat everybody at 24 years of age average. It's quite impressive.
Yeah, and you know, for me, it's that it still feels like SGA hasn't had his patented game in this series, right? He had his lowest scoring output of the season in Game 1. He had a good night last night, but it wasn't very efficient. It feels like we're still waiting for that SGA patented performance, and that is what makes me say, okay, this Thunder team, they really could be for real. They take a commanding 3-0 lead. Last night, though, all of us, we were hanging down the 405. We were watching that Thunder game on my phone because we were in the building for the first playoff game ever at Intuit Dome here. So the Clippers taking on the Nuggets here.
Hey.
The wall, the horse heads, the whole shebang.
I'm not sure what the jackets were about, but I'm sure there
You
was
know what?
Yeah.
I'm sure there's something to that, and I know there is something to this. Kawhi Leonard, the Clippers up 18, and then James Harden, he lays it
That's
in,
way too
plus
easy.
the foul. And a little flex on them, too. The Clippers go up by 20 here. So going ahead to the third quarter, 6:30 left to go. The Clippers up 19. Just take a look at the ball movement here, Ramona.
I mean, Norman Powell, the Zoo, back out to Kawhi, back around. I mean, they are on a string. And you know, we talked about it pregame where Ty Lue said role players play better at home. Yep.
Absolutely. And then Norm Powell takes it the other way. The Clippers up 24, and let David Adelman know. Remember, David Adelman was saying, well, they pumped crowd noise in there, and Clippers fans just wanted to make sure that they could be heard here. Here's James Harden after that emphatic win.
It's a good start. It's a good game one.
From the fan
game one and into it.
Yeah, from the fan aspect, though, just what was the energy?
It was cracking. It was loud. It was just how we expected it to be. You know what I mean? I think that's one of the reasons why we jumped out to a huge lead. You know what I mean? They got behind us and we just rode that wave.
So here's the thing, though. Game 1, Game 2, they're separated by a total point. And then you have a far cry from that in this game last night. Mark. And so what did you learn about this one?
The Jeff Van Gundy effect. That defense that he's put in, that Ty Lue's put in, scary.
Yeah.
And you got one of the greatest offenses in the world that they've shut down. What they're doing is they're doubling Joker, they're doubling MPJ, they're doubling Jamal, and saying the rest of the Nuggets beat us. And they're not. They're also, look at this right here, they're closing the driving lanes, adjusting shots. They're basically, the Nuggets are in a position now where they have to shoot the first shot. And a lot of times they're not, and they're passing back out. It's in disarray. And you'll see Michael Porter Jr. here. He'll take a shot. He told me he didn't get any good looks the whole game. They've been playing some stifling, amazing defense.
Yeah.
And I'm worried about this team, man. Let's see if they have the heart of a champion. They got some injuries. MPJ, I don't know. Ramona knows some more about it. Like, he may not play Saturday. Jamal's hurting. Russ is hurting. Aaron told me he could barely jump right now. How much heart do you have left? After everything that's happened the last couple of weeks, Cancun sounds cool right now. Let's see if they prefer vacation or trying to fight back in the mile high.
I think they'll find some fight. The question, I just don't know if they have enough.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, Michael Porter Jr. had his left shoulder, and he told me he was at 20 or 30% last night. He was running down the court, and he was dragging his arm the whole time. He goes,
remember when he tried to put on his shirt?
Yeah, it took him a while.
Yeah.
And he said, if I'm going to try to play.
Yeah.
But if I'm going to be like this and I'm not really helping the team, I don't see what the point is.
That's a huge statement.
This injury that he has right now, this is a grade 2 sprain of that AC joint on it. It's a left shoulder, yeah, but you use your arm to do everything. And just being in that locker room, you could just feel this. I don't know. It felt bad in that locker room last night.
They should play the MASH music in the background.
Yeah, like Aaron had his calf taped up. I mean, with ice on it. I mean, it was a rough locker room there.
Well, if this was a marathon, they ran out of gas at the 3-mile mark.
Yeah.
I mean, they jumped off to a start last night when it was 2014. Aaron Gordon got rolling here. Where it changed, second quarter.
Yep.
35-28 Clippers. Nikola Jokic comes out of the game.
Yep.
They go on a quick 7-0 run, and the ball game was over. And I don't know if they do have enough, because right now they're a wounded animal.
Yeah.
And you have to have a quick turnaround come Saturday. to get a split Saturday afternoon to go back to Denver.
And that's why I was a little bit confused. I wondered if David Adelman was going to pull his starters a little bit sooner in the fourth quarter, knowing that essentially you had a 36-hour turnaround in this. But something that is not lost on the Clippers, nor is it lost on the Denver Nuggets here, is they see what the Oklahoma City Thunder are doing. We were all there chatting with people after the game. They see OKC rolling through their first-round series. The depth of the Clippers was on full display. You talked about the double teams, but Zubac can guard Nikola Jokic on his own. And that sort of is helping the rest of the team kind of conserve their energy. They're so deep. We talk so much about the best player versus the team with a really, really good player, a Kawhi Leonard and James Harden, and the depth to support it. That is coming out here for the Los Angeles Clippers. Should we?
The guy who usually gives Denver that juice when they don't have it, Russell Westbrook, turned his foot in pregame warm-ups and had to leave in the second quarter.
So this is going to come down to rest. It's going to come down to health. And someone in the locker room, the sentiment was, we need a 41-point triple-double from Nikola Jokic in order to be able to win this game. That is asking a heck of a lot. But if anyone can do it, you know, the lightning is coming. Still to come on NBA Today, the Knicks, their first 5 out did something in Detroit that they haven't done in 52 years. We're going to be 7 to score 30 points in a playoff game. The Knicks up 7 now. A minute left to play. Knicks up 5. Brunson, clutch player of the year for a reason, makes the layup. Knicks go up by 7, under a minute to go here. Jump ball here. Tim Hardaway Jr. drains the 3. So now it's a 3-point game here. Next Knicks possession, Brunson gets the inbound pass and is fouled. But the question is, was this a backcourt violation? It's pretty close. JB Bickerstaff not happy. Brunson would split the free throws. Tobias Harris for 3. Pistons down by 1 here. And then half second left here. Brunson intentionally misses the free throw. And before anyone can touch it, the buzzer sounded. Time runs out, but the ball's in the air. So the Pistons get it side out. Jalen Duren, though, throws it a little too far on the inbounds pass. So the Knicks get the win here. Here's Karl Anthony Towns on that last play of the game.
Shout out to their table.
Yeah, they need a raise for that.
Shout out to the table. 10 years I ain't never seen that. They gave him a chance, bro.
Smart.
Shout out to them.
Smart on their part, but
I got number of respect for that.
Yeah. I'm just happy Tibbs played me all those minutes at the regular season. Got me in shape for the playoffs.
It was Comedy Central in the postgame for the New York Knicks last night. But they had 4 players score 20 or more points in a playoff game for the first time since '72 against the Bullets, with Towns, Brunson, Anunoby, Bridges all reaching that mark. I can only imagine the conversation we'd be having if this game had ended a little bit differently. But the Knicks, they do go on to hang on and get this win in this one. Bobby, what stood out to you?
Well, first, to correct Carl on that, the officials start the clock with their backpack. It's not the scores table. So just a little clarification there, and back to Carl.
Okay.
His aggressiveness coming out of the gate. 6 out of his first 7 shots were from deep, and he missed a bunch of those too. I think the big thing too is the foul trouble of Tobias Harris. Him picking up foul trouble put Jalen Duren on Karl Anthony Towns, and Karl's eyes lit up when a center went on him. And basically he said, I'm the best player on the court. There's a reason why I'm an all-NBA player, and he showed last night why.
Well, there's a reason why Jalen Brunson is the clutch player of the year. He's averaging 12 points in the clutch in the fourth quarter this year. I mean, and he did it again in this game. And this is one of those games you just lose at home. There's a lot of criticism in between games 2 and games 3. This is when you put the team on your back in this fourth quarter. When they were trying to come back, give the Pistons credit. I mean, they made a lot of clutch plays, but Jalen Brunson made more.
You know, it was like James Harden said, it was lit. It was lit in Detroit too. They had the Lions, the Tigers, Ben Wallace, Ben Stiller. Oh my! But the Knicks came in there and they played fast, up-tempo basketball. Something that they did in Game 1 that they didn't do in Game 2. 33 points in the first quarter, 33 points in the second quarter. That, to me, was the key to holding on and winning the game. And I think for the Knicks to continue to be successful in this series, they can't have 94 like that in Game 2. They got to run.
And Karl Anthony Towns, to your point, Bobby, it's such a huge part of that, right? After being zeros across the board in the fourth quarter of Game 2, really avenging that here in Game 3. Let's stick in the East here, shall we? Game 3 tonight between the Pacers and the Bucks. Tyrese Halliburton and Indy, they held serve through the first 2. Giannis dropped a combined 70 points in the first 2 games, but the Bucks have come up short. Meanwhile, the Pacers offense, Mark, they've been cooking. Only the Cavaliers have a higher offensive rating so far in these playoffs. And now we're talking about the stakes here, Bobby Marks. How high are they for Milwaukee? Because we know what happens historically when a team goes down 0-3.
Well, it's huge. I mean, this is their current roster right now. And Malika, I think if they lose this series, we're going to see change with this current group here. And here's why. When we're looking at who their free agents potentially could be, Gary Trent Jr., Brook Lopez, Kevin Porter Jr., all players that contribute. Taurean Prince, Pat Connaughton, Bobby Portis Jr., when we look at here. This is their group of 5 free agents, and I think change is going to be coming. Brook Lopez is their most senior member. We've talked about this at length. How do you extend the Giannis window to compete for a championship? And here's all their free agents. There's a bunch here. Damian Lillard's extension eligible here. Ooh. This Milwaukee team will have lost in the first round 3 years in a row if they lose to Indiana here. And as I said, there's going to be changes to this roster, certainly, if they lose in this first round.
So far, just one playoff series win since they won the title back in 2021. And I think back to that quote that Giannis said earlier this week about this is life or death. And Giannis, he always sets the table appropriately. He knows what this team is looking to do and the mission they were looking to complete when they traded for Damian Lillard here. But what does it tell you when he's saying things like that?
That he is thinking like that. And I think when you have Giannis on your team, and John Horst, the general manager, who just did an extension there, he's flat out said, when you have Giannis on your team, you're always under pressure. You should always be competing for a title, and they're going backwards. I mean, last year, I understand Giannis was hurt, Dame was hurt. Dame, through some miracle, has been able to come back from the blood clot in his arm and come back and play here. If they don't get out of the first round here, if they don't show up in Game 3, this is something where you have to look at making big changes. But what changes can they really make?
You know, every person that gets traded mid-season isn't a Jimmy Butler or a Luka or going back Pau Gasol, as you certainly remember. But I expected that from Kyle. Kyle was so excited to get traded, so excited to go to Milwaukee. This is somebody that averaged over 20 points a game the previous 2 seasons with Washington, and he's like, man, I get to play in a winning environment, and it hasn't translated. And maybe it translates better this season, but for him to have a goose egg with Dame out, not shoot the ball, not hit a 3 the last game, like they need Dame, obviously, they need Giannis, but Kuz's got to step up, and he has the game to do it.
Yeah, I think, the Milwaukee Bucks are favored slightly in this Game 3. I expect them to come out with a different sort of fire in this one. Bobby, I know there's a lineup that they found in Game 2 that you maybe want to see a little bit more of.
Yeah, they went with basically, they took Brook Lopez out of the game, and they basically put Bobby Portis in here. And certainly when you look at Gary Trent Jr. replacing Lopez, this is kind of their group, and I think certainly when you look at it with Gary Trent Jr. and taking Kyle Kuzma, they basically been playing from behind this whole series. But they went in a run in that fourth quarter against Indiana that cut that lead to 2. The playoffs is about making hard decisions, and it's about hurting players' feelings, but doing what's best for your roster. And they are certainly in a hole tonight, and they've got to win tonight.
Yep, absolutely. The teams do not come back from down 0-3 in a playoff series. This is as must-win as it gets for the Milwaukee Bucks. Tonight, we have a trio of NBA playoff Game 3s, Celtics Magic. So let's go in the bonus here on Game 3 in Minnesota. Luka has starred in the first 2 games, becoming the second player in NBA history to average 30 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists per game in his first 2 playoff games with any franchise. He joins Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who did this with the Lakers back in 1977. As for the Timberwolves, they've had 2 outlier 3-point shooting games, right? One good, one bad. They scorched the Nets for 21 made threes on 42 attempts in Game 1, and then they followed that up by making just 5 of 25 threes in their Game 2 loss here. Which brings us to a pivotal Game 3 tonight in Minnesota. And why is it so important? Because historically, the winner of Game 3 of a best-of-7 series tied at 1-1 has gone on to win that series over 74% of the time. This gives a major edge for the rest of the series. So here's LeBron James at shoot-around today.
I mean, the postseason doesn't matter what the numbers look like. It doesn't matter, what the scores look. I mean, what the stat sheet look like. It's about that. You win the game. Obviously, you want to get better. You want to look at the things you could have got better at. When you watch the film the day after, or how many days you have to be clean. But there's no moral victories in the postseason. Right. It's about winning the game. And let's see what team we did before. faster than the other team. That's the only thing.
Now joining us from Minnesota, our reporter covering the Lakers, Dave McMenamin. Dave, we just heard what LeBron is prioritizing here. What's JJ Redick's message?
Yeah, Malik, I spoke to JJ yesterday, and he said after looking at the game tape from the first two games of the series, there's a lot for the Lakers to clean up offensively. And he said in order to do so, he wants to see them play with some more pace and some more thrust. You think about the offensive numbers that they've had in the fast break. They were dominated in game one, only scored 6. They won the battle in fast break in game 2, but even still, in winning it, they only scored 13. So he thinks that they can boost their numbers by, running more. But I asked LeBron that question before he gave that answer this morning at shoot-around, and, I hearkened back to the 2015 finals when he was just trying to drag the Cavs across the finish line against the Warriors. And back then he said, I'm throwing efficiency out the window. Sometimes the numbers don't matter so long as you are bringing the fight to the battle.
Okay, so that's the Lakers side of this. On the other side, you spoke to Rudy Gobert at Wolves shoot-around. What can you tell us about how he sees his impact in this series?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a battle between Rudy and the Lakers stars, and he got the better of them. Even though the Wolves lost game 2, Rudy Gobert, as the isolated defender against LeBron James, Luka Doncic, and Austin Reeves, held those guys for 3 for 12 shooting. And he said he lives for those moments. He wants to play against the best players in the world. So while the Lakers seemingly are hunting out that ISO matchup, Rudy says bring it on, because he wants to continue to prove why he's a multi-time Defensive Player of the Year. And what better way to do it than trying to stop guys like LeBron and Luka?
Certainly the crowd in Crypto.com Arena would go nuts every single time Rudy got switched on to Luka Doncic. But when you look at the numbers, as you just pointed out, Rudy did hold his own, particularly against Luka there, even if the crowd was sort of feeding off of those moments. Dave McMenamin, thank you so very much. Enjoy tonight's game. Hey, we got a treat right here on NBA Today. You won't believe who is stopping by. Oh, yes, it's the man, it's the myth, it's the legend. And he's on the sidelines covering tonight's game, doing our color commentary, our analyst work here. Richard Jefferson, we always appreciate you making it to the time. I want to get to both sides of this game, but we're going to start with the Los Angeles Lakers. What is the key as the series shifts to Minnesota?
Ooh, there's so many keys. I would look at, one, the others. I would look at who's going to play well. You saw Naz Reid play well. You saw Jaden McDaniels play well in game 1. Those guys are going to have to continue to hit shots, especially McDaniels. But on the other side, the Lakers lost the rebounding battle by 7 in game 1, and they won it in game 2. The Lakers are 18-3 when they're +5 on the rebounding margin. Now, that might seem like a random stat, but if they're cleaning up the glass, and the Lakers are small. Remember, they tried to go get the big at the deadline. They weren't able to. They lost Anthony Davis. So the Lakers are traditionally a small team, even though they have big wings. So when they clean up the glass and they have a +5 margin on the glass, they're 18-3. And I say all that to say is that those extra shots, the ability to get out in transition, but as you're also going to need extra guys, like Austin Reeves is going to have to do something. You're going to need a couple more guys to show up. In the Minnesota win, they had 7 guys with 9 or more. 7 guys with 9 or more. And that just shows the balance. And on the Lakers side in game 2, they had a much better balance in the scoring opportunity. So I think it's the others, but I also think that rebounding margin is something that you're going to have to really pay attention to.
Yeah, Austin Reeves was able to find much more of a rhythm here in game 2, help out Luka Doncic. I'm also wondering, we've talked about LeBron James, his health. I'm very curious to see if this is one of his more signature, at least scoring performances, because defensively, he still looked pretty good. All right, let's go to the other side of this one, Richard. How can Minnesota capitalize on their home court advantage here?
Well, Minnesota's been a real funny team at home, especially if you look at last year in the postseason, winning 2 games against Denver, then losing 2 games at home, ultimately still winning in game 7. But I think Minnesota, they've got to show some maturity. They've got to continue to grow. They've got to be greedy. They didn't look greedy in game 2. They didn't look as greedy. They looked like they were full. They've got to come out and be excellent at home. And typically the role players are the ones that play better. So that's why I think Minnesota has a great opportunity to take full control of this series, not only in just game 3, but also in game 4.
Yeah, Bobby Marks said after game 2 that he would rather be a Minnesota Timberwolves fan. Even after watching what he just saw with the series shifting back to Minnesota, he thinks that they're going to be able to regain some ground here. Richard, before I let you go, we don't like to call you an icon or a fashion maven, but it wouldn't be incorrect to use those terms. So if if we could take a look together at our tunnel walk brought to you by JCPenney. We pulled a few of the elite playoff fits we've seen so far. I'm hoping for your expert analysis here. Starting with the Canadian tuxedo
was
yeah,
great.
This is pretty good too here.
Luka's just classic Cade Cunningham. He's really introduced himself to America. Steph, he's still expressman. That's what Steph does. I think he still has a collab. But this right here is called aura. What you see right there, those three, that's called aura. And I've always said this. If you see a well-dressed 7-footer, shout out to my guy Chet Holmgren, they had to work twice as hard as everybody else that gets to shop off the rack. So Chet has some custom fits there. Yeah. He's looking elite.
Well, what about this guy, though? After, obviously, we see what is done in the NBA, but it looks like Schefter was taking some tips from you with the hoodie, but he also added the tie. Who wore it better?
Yeah. I want to tell you, the tie hoodie with the print on the suit. Oh my God, that might be the greatest suit hoodie combo I've ever seen. Matching tie. I'm gonna have to steal it. I get it. It's cold in Green Bay. I'm glad that I would give a little credit to Orlovsky too for like introducing the hoodie to the broadcast booth. I felt like I really kind of made it my own. Yeah. But Chef's taking it to a whole new level. That's chef's kiss.
Yeah, it's a chef's kiss, really, a chefty kiss.
What you feel, what you're seeing on the floor for your teammates, it allows guys to get into a flow.
You can't just point, you gotta say what you want.
That's just something I get better and better at every year. Something that I know the team needs, me to be vocal.
Man, I got low. Coming out.
We got a heavily defensive-minded team. But at the end of the day, when we have a breakdown, when something happens, I'm the last line of defense, and it's kind of telling guys where to go. Take it. Yep. I got ball.
We talk about loading to the ball, right? Ball's over here. Y'all holding and worry about that action. That's the problem. I know that's coming. That's where communication comes in.
Game 3 is tonight as the Magic host the Celtics, down 0-2 in the series. But the big question, Ramona, is Jason Tatum, and whether or not he is going to play as he continues to deal with that wrist injury. What more can you tell us?
He wants to play. Okay. The question is whether or not he can convince the Celtics to let him play. Right. He told me that it's just going to be about learning to play with pain if and when he's able to come back. When he does come back, he'll probably have to wear a pad on that wrist. The injury is sort of to the top of the wrist. That's where the pain is. That's his shooting wrist, so that's going to be a little something to learn to play with. He'll know more when he gets to the arena, goes through his workout, and sees how he feels. But the Celtics are being cautious with this one because they obviously have designs on a long playoff run.
Right. It's not just the next 2 days. It's the next 2 months here for the Boston Celtics. But Jason Tatum isn't the only one listed on the injury report here. Drew Holiday, Jaylen Brown also listed as questionable in this one. Do you expect them to suit up?
Jaylen Brown more likely than Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday always has a hamstring. Jaylen Brown with that knee. That's something he's just been managing the whole time. He got some injections before the playoffs, trying to get through this whole long run here. But the Celtics they're going to be cautious here because they, as we mentioned before, they have designs on a long playoff run here.
Some bumps and bruises. Yeah, up 2-0. Some bumps and bruises here for the Boston Celtics that we will be keeping an eye on as we march towards tip-off tonight. Ramona, thank you.
Thanks, Malika.
Before we bounce, today marks an important anniversary. 75 years ago today, the first black players, they entered the NBA, paving the way for black athletes and transforming the landscape of the league. Here's Steph Curry, Karl Anthony Towns, Jaylen Brown, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar on the importance of the 3 pioneers.
This year, we celebrate the 75th anniversary
of the 3 black pioneers who broke the NBA's color barrier.
Chuck Cooper,
Earl Lloyd,
and Nat Sweetwater Clifton.
They each excelled as college athletes
and as members of the world-famous Harlem Globetrotters.
But when they entered the NBA in 1950,
they cemented their legacy as historic figures in the game.
Despite enduring difficulties and discrimination,
these pioneers laid the groundwork for all who came after them.
In 1950, the Boston Celtics hadn't yet won an NBA title, but they made history when they drafted Chuck Cooper, the first black player ever to be selected.
Chuck Cooper being drafted, it was the ownership of the NBA saying that we can accept integration of the NBA.
Cooper takes the pass and drops in a perfect 2-pointer.
Chuck Cooper not only made an indelible mark on the NBA, but the legacies he left behind at Duquesne University and in his native Pittsburgh are just as large.
When my dad came back to Pittsburgh after his NBA career, he got his master's degree, he knew that he needed education to become the first African-American city department director, to become the first black executive at PNC Bank. As a son, I would want to be able to say, hey, Dad, you deserve it all.
Basketball fans in the late 1940s knew the name Nat Sweetwater Clifton. He was a star for the super popular Harlem Globetrotters. But in 1950, he made history with the New York Knicks, becoming the first black player to sign a contract with an NBA team.
That's New York's Sweetwater Clifton.
The goal was to get in there so that he could break a barrier.
Sweetwater Clifton loops one in to delight all Knickerbocker fans present.
With his unique ball handling skills, his game was ahead of its time. Clifton became an all-star and a prototype for today's NBA big man.
Sweetwater was quietly somewhere near the top of the toughest guys ever played in the NBA.
It's Earl Lloyd who holds the distinction of being the first black player to appear in an NBA game. A physical defender and rebounder, Lloyd played 9 NBA seasons and was a key member of the Syracuse Nationals.
And they go on from here to win the 1955 Pro Championship.
Following his playing days, the Detroit Pistons hired him as the NBA's first black assistant coach. Later, he was named the head coach.
He understood that his gift was just not a gift. It was a gift that was designed to help him fulfill his purpose.
Now welcoming in Pelicans guard and president of the National Basketball Players Association, CJ McCollum. CJ, as always, we appreciate you making the time, especially because today it marks the 75th anniversary of the historic 1950 NBA draft, when the first black players entered the NBA. Chuck Cooper was drafted by the Celtics, Earl Lloyd went to Washington to the Capitals, and then Nat Sweetwater Clifton signed with the New York Knicks the next month from the Harlem Globetrotters. So from your perspective, how integral were they in pioneering the way that black athletes are in the NBA today and opening up that space?
Yeah, these men were essential to the development of the NBA in general, from the expansion and understanding of the things that they went through in order to become a part of the NBA, the racism they faced, the discrimination, and their ability to still perform at a high level.